you have a voice and you have a posture you can bring when you meet to bank. It's not just the bank saying, it's not just the bank vetting whether or not you're good enough for us. Come with the idea that I need to find a bank that's good enough for me.
Welcome to the Spirit Change podcast. We have Shellie Berry in the room. Super excited to have Shellie in the room. First and foremost, her heart is just so pure. She leads with compassion, and everything that Shellie does, she does it from a compassionate perspective, but also full of heart, full of love. And so just wanted to say, welcome, Shellie. So happy to have you here. And as we dive into the conversation, Shellie, what is one word that you would use to possibly describe who you are and why?
Oh, now that's talk about putting someone on the spot, having to come up with that one word. Well, one word popped up for me, and I guess I have a little cheat here too. It's joy. That's been my word for the year, really. Does that describe me? I think so. I'm learning more about myself by people's feedback about me. And they're saying that, I smile a lot. I'm like, is that a good thing? It's a good thing. They like the energy I exude. But I suppose that encompasses joy. It is something that there was a time in my life where I didn't have it and have a lot of it. I was trying to smile to create it and didn't really have it. So now to truly have it and to see others experience it without me even recognizing it, that's probably a good way to describe myself, because I think the feedback of others affirms that. So joy.
Joy. I love it.
Life with joy.
I love it. I love it. And Shellie, you are truly a joy to be around. And, we've kind of been walking together, if you would, over the past year and a half or so since we've known each other. And you have definitely created a space that allows me to be as joyful whenever you come into the room. So super excited. Thank you for that. Shellie, when you think about a spirit change moment is really that moment that was defining for you. When you look back over your life, you think, I overcame that, or I cultivated something from that moment. Mm-hmm. And so what would be a spirit change moment for you?
Yeah, do you have like 72 hours, right? Can we go on a girlfriend retreat to talk about the spirit changes in my life? One that will come to mind, because you and I met kind of in the business world, so I kind of stayed along that lane, was when I owned my own business. Mm-hmm. And even opening the business was a spirit change moment of itself. Never have been an entrepreneur before, even though it kind of runs in my family. So in the mid 2000s, actually kind of late 2000s, but in the mid 2000s, I had that idea of starting my own business. Mm-hmm. And then in the late 2000s, 2007, 2008, some of you might remember that time, is when it opened. And I saw a need, and I wanted to fill a need in the community. And that's why I started this business called Recess Kids Club. And just real briefly, it was a different take on childcare at the time that would allow all the families that were moving in to this growing state of Arizona to have a place to put their children, to unpack a box or two, or to get familiar with the area, or to go on a date night without having to hire somebody that you didn't know to come to your home because you just moved here. Mm-hmm. And many, many other reasons. So we kind of filled a niche that wasn't there for childcare, and how payment was made for situations like this and things like that. So it didn't open until I was here maybe 4 years later. And that's just how life went. And signed the lease in 2007, lease, but then the lease and the tenant improvement, all the things that go into opening and licensing to get a business opened didn't happen until 2008. And then we're in full-blown recession. Wow. So even just opening it was just this kind of moment of like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing in my life? Is this the right thing to do? The idea came a few years ago, before, had a child in between, but just went for it. It's just my creativity, my passion for the community, my desire to fill a need that I saw. Couldn't have been just my own story. My own need was to have a place to put my kids when we moved here. I knew that I couldn't have been the only family in that situation. So all those desires were still in play that fueled me to start the business, but still was like, this is going to be life-changing, because honestly, I've never started a business before. So just like having your first kid, you don't really know what you're doing. You're just kind of, it's been done before. So you see it happening, you see it succeeding, but you're still kind of learning by doing in a lot of ways. So that was just learning how to try to do that well Was certainly a moment. And then, of course, like I said, it opened during the recession. So I'm kind of giving you the whole summary. You can dig deeper with me. But, it opened during the recession, and therefore it closed before the recession really fully ended. And there's a whole story. Like I said, you probably need a conference for me to have the time to really delve deep into all the elements and all the lessons learned from that. But definitely defining, definitely a stretching moment in my time in my life, a learning moment. I should have a master's degree or doctorate on my wall in business just from having that for 2 years, and all the things that went from creating it from dream to reality, man, to having to close, and all the stuff that still happens even after it closes. So
Right.
lots of lessons learned and lots of things that I love to be. I'm glad to be where I am today, to be positioned to share with business owners I come in touch with.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? So, as it relates to where you are today, how is that either defined where you are or has shaped, you even in this position that you're in as a business development officer at Gateway?
Right, right. And funny that I would say joy is my word, right? It certainly was not a joyous occasion during that time. And I have joy today, despite that unexpected. And no one starts a business expecting it to close,
Right.
or wanting it to. And so to have joy today is already a victory in what came out of it. So to be positioned today with a commercial bank that seeks small businesses to help them grow, it's a great place for me to use all of the things that I learned, the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, the do's and the don'ts of that time, to give to others, to share, and be able to really be authentic with it, because I've been there, not coming from a textbook or coming from someone on the outskirts. I might have been alongside to watch these things happen to someone else. I mean, I went through it myself. So to be able to share some of the things that I did well, and that still didn't go the way it should have gone, the things that I could have done better, and maybe it may or not, maybe it may have or may have not changed the outcome. I love being able to share those elements with people as I connect with them as entrepreneurs. So today I'm filled with joy, because what happened then wasn't wasted.
Right.
I'm able to use it to know that you can conquer hard times. At the time you kind of wonder, am I going to ever get through this? That was kind of like being a mom of 3 kids. I can say this and hopefully not be offending anybody. It's like having another child, starting your own business from dream to reality. I mean, you're all in and invested, and to lose it was a true loss. And it took its grief process, and so during that time, I didn't have joy. But joy came later, and then joy keeps continuing when I get to share what I learned then with others and see them implement it, and things go the way I wish they had gone if I had known to do it back then for myself.
Right. I love that, Shellie. And even despite your situation, right? You have found a way to take your experiences and cultivate something new. You are like literally pouring back into your community and making sure that business after business is successful, right? So taking the lessons that you've learned, but then also coupling that with your experience and what you currently do at the bank to make sure that businesses are successful. So can we talk a little bit just about bridging the gap for businesses, and specifically, some of the work that we do in the community for creating that visibility for Black-owned businesses and helping them gain access to capital. How do you believe that perhaps maybe access to capital, or the lack thereof in your past experience, has shaped, or how do you believe that access to capital shows up in your world, and how does it impact businesses? Let's start there.
Let's just go there. And taking from my experience and bringing it into today as well. Well, one of the things that occurred when I started my business is that you got to have a business bank account, right? You got to go to a bank. And I just went to where we already banked personally, with the bigger banks, one of those top 4 banks. And at the time, they rolled out the red carpet for me. Boy, they were just attention. I really was a red carpet experience. I sat in a room with these bankers and lenders and all these resources available to me. They were really happy to present what they could offer. And I felt wooed and I fell for it. I drank the Kool-Aid, and opened the account, got my payroll with them, got all the eggs basically in one basket: payroll, credit cards, workers' compensation, all of that there. And then, and I had the business card of the contact person. That's a nice lady who I call every now and then if I needed some questions answered. Well, when the recession hit, I found that business card. I called that phone number. Somebody else answered, had no idea who I was looking for, talking to, or talking about, and didn't really have an interest in my issue. And that is a big thing. That's a big deal. For small business owners, our business is part of our identity goes into our business because it's a brand that we're creating from a passion that comes from within for most of us. And then you got money, which kind of speaks for itself of how valuable that is to society and to living. And when you bring it to a bank that doesn't know how to care about it, it feels personal because it is. And so today when I meet with business owners, first of all, let them know you need to make sure you're at a bank who knows your name and cares to know your name, not just for the bells and whistles of getting you to open their accounts with them, but for the success of your business. So find a bank that's dependent upon the success of your business. So if your business fails, they're going to feel it. If it succeeds, they're going to celebrate with you because they're really truly coming alongside. And community banks do that. And that's where I found myself today positioned, is working for a local community bank that depends on the success of small business for our success. So then the way it leads to access for capital is through that relationship, right? So the business owner, Black-owned businesses particularly, think systemically or traditionally, or however you want to put it, there came a time where it's been taught or passed down that no one really cares about you, especially in the bank. You're probably going to be treated as a number. You're not going to be treated fairly. And that's all. And so many business owners come in with that. They won't even go to a bank, or certainly not going to ask for lending from a bank. They might end up going to hard money lender or the cash paycheck cashier on the corner, and do those very dangerous things because they don't trust the bank. You need to find a trusting bank, and they're out there today. You've got to really look for it. So having a relationship where a banker knows the name of the business owner, and they know you and your face, and that cares about your story because they understand you're the person behind your business, and that matters. That's important anyway. It's important just for a business owner to start your business, even before you may or may not need capital. Right. But really, in this life, you're more likely to lend to somebody you know than you don't know, whether you're a bank or you're not, right? So it's really good to make sure you know somebody and that they know you in your business and your passion behind your business at a bank. I'm glad to be positioned to be a person of color positioned at a bank that's community bank that believes in that philosophy. So I can help bridge that gap, help business owners, Black-owned business owners build trust with a bank, introduce them to people who may not even be Black, but are fair and really do care about the success of your business. And so when hard times come, hard times hit, like they did for me during the recession, and hard times hit a lot of people during COVID, when you have a bank that knows who you are and cares who you are and is invested in the growth and success of your business, it'll help you through those hard times. And I've been able to see that with a lot of businesses that I come in contact with.
I love that. And, Shellie, even as you talk, one of the things that, Shellie and I, we are part of a program called the Seed Me program, and we've helped to develop this out. And so as you talk about that, one of the things that I'm reminded about, Shellie, is that a banker should be an extension of your team. Yes. So one of the things that we were taught, or that we taught in throughout this program, is that your banker should know your name, and your banker should be an extension. That banker should be able to advocate for you. And I remember Paul Smiley saying up front is that banker, the bank that you associate with or bank with should know exactly what it is that you do from a business perspective. That's the type of relationship that you should be able to build with your banker. And to your point, so many times, especially from a cultural perspective, is that we don't have the banking relationships that we should have. We might bank at an institution, but we don't build out that relationship. And so I can appreciate what you're saying as it relates to building out that relationship with your banker, so that he or she, or they, really the entire team, could really know and understand what you do and what you bring to the table.
I try to take some of the anxiety out of banking. That's one of our philosophies, part of the culture of our bank too, is just to take some of the stress and overwhelm out of lending, out of banking, because we're people too. And then when you're at a community bank, it is more, there people as a people business, more than at the bigger banks where things are very automated and regimented. There's more flexibility in a community bank. And so I would love for Black-owned businesses to know you have a voice and you have a posture you can bring when you meet to banks. Not just the bank saying, it's not just the bank vetting whether or not you're good enough for us. Come with the idea that I need to find a bank that's good enough for me. And ask those questions that you said, or listen if that bank asks you what you do, why you do it, how you got started, and how you got here. If you're going to a bank and trying to develop a relationship with someone who banks there, and they're only interested in your numbers or where you're located, and and how long you've been in the business, and the numbers are important, mind you, but they're not really interested in the power behind the business being successful, which is the person. Then you might want to look for another bank that knows how to ask those questions and seeks, why do you do what you do? How to get started? Where do you want to take it from here?
I love it. I love it. So Shellie, what is the biggest lesson that you learned over that time that you were,
On my own.
Yeah, on your own as you're transitioning out? What's that biggest lesson?
I'm looking down at my phone here because I have to write some notes down to kind of, boy, it was a tender time. This has been over 10 years now, so I can talk about it. But like I said, it's taken some time, well over 10 years. And so many things that I learned was, and I just moved here and I didn't develop out a network. I didn't develop out experts. Now I knew to seek for experts. I hired a business attorney. I worked with a realtor. But they weren't very good referrals, just come to find out they did what they could, but I didn't really have a relationship with them. And so they were there because I was referred to them and not because they really cared. So when you involve yourself in a networking group or in a support group of entrepreneurs, so people like you, they may not be in the same business, but they're like-minded in the sense that they're trying to grow their own business. Then you can share with each other ups and downs and challenges, and maybe even with each other's networks. Maybe there is a business attorney that they actually worked with that's why they're referring you and can share and things of that nature, an accountant. So I did my best that I could, but that was probably one of the biggest areas that I wish could have been different, that I had that truly vetted pool of experts, even down to the realtor. After I got into the lease, you find out some things that, why didn't the realtor tell me this? And so I could blame her, or I could also say, here's the other lesson. You can't just depend on the vetted expert alone. You need to understand your business and the things that go around starting the business for yourself. And look, I'm an entrepreneur. I understand. There was a lot going on. I had to get licensed too. I was a licensed childcare center. So you're dealing with parents and their children and their money under the government. I mean, there's a lot going on. And then of course, hiring and developing out the building and all. But welcome to entrepreneurship, right? If you want to do it on your own, there's a lot of hats you got to learn to wear as well. So I say that, yes, you need to know for yourself, but you can't possibly know it all on your own. You do need to be surrounded by some people who have proven themselves trustworthy to help you along the way. And I didn't have that with my bank. I didn't have that with an attorney. I didn't have that with a commercial realtor, although I did have all of them, which I thought they were a team, but not really an extension of my business, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And Shellie, when I think about where you are today and what you do and what you provide for your community, you have really established that pool of experts, and whenever someone needs a connection, I know a person, and you always get them plugged in. And so I can appreciate the fact that, first of all, you've taken that lesson from when you were in this space of entrepreneurship, and now you've built out what you needed to see so that you could really support your community, so you can support your constituents, the people that you serve the most.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I value that. It's what drives me to do what I do. in my job. Am I still an entrepreneur at heart? I think I always will be, especially when you surround yourselves by entrepreneurs all the time. It's like, yes, I know, I get that, and kind of want it. But I'm vicariously kind of living through the dreams of other entrepreneurs, and I delight in helping them achieve their dreams if I can connect them with somebody that really helps them to get there. The person that I wish I had in my life, including a community bank that's happy to partner with them.
Yeah, that's the compassion and the passion that always shows up in your world. When you think about the biggest impact or the legacy that you want to leave behind, whether that's daily or, later on in life, what is that impact that you want to leave?
Your daily life, business life, what's the legacy? It's a good question. I have to think about that one for a minute. Because for me personally, I guess I go back to that word, seeing the joy in someone else, and knowing that I might have played a little role in that, whether that joy of success or that joy of change in the change or coming through the hard times, seeing somebody make it. So I guess the legacy is just, I already know what I've lived through isn't going to be wasted. So seeing somebody else pass that on, probably, accomplishing their dreams and goals and then passing that same idea on to someone else. Take what you've learned, what you've suffered through, what you've achieved, or maybe what you're in your failings too, and pass it on to someone else so that they don't repeat the same mistakes,
Yeah, and you and I often talk about just generational wealth. And last week we were talking about even generational networking. And as you even talk about just passing it on and paying it forward, to me, that's ultimately the impact that you've left in my life. And even when I think about the cohort that we currently support, you are creating this space for that generational wealth, generational vitality. And just giving them a different perspective and a lens in which they can look at banking through.
Right. And I can get a little deep, so I might get a little deep for a second as you think about legacy, because you can't control recessions, right? We can't control pandemics, can't control really people's choices and their fickleness and what they want to buy and sell, but you can decide if you're going to have joy. You can decide how you're going to respond to it all. You can decide if you're going to just go through it yourself and then have the attitude of, well, let them figure it out. I have to figure it out on my own. Let them figure it out too. I mean, those are your choices, and that's going to kind of define the kind of legacy you're going to leave. And I don't want to leave that kind of legacy where someone else has to suffer necessarily, because I'm withholding what I know that could help.
Right.
And so I guess I kind of wish I could, through this camera, through somehow, empower the Black community, the whole world ideally, but if I'm going to be speaking to us, because we've been through some stuff that only us understand, open your mouth and pass it on. Share that hard time that there's, if you might be surprised that the shame and the guilt that could be wrapped around it might be set free, because it's not wasted. And the point of view is giving it away. And while you're holding on to it, you're staying still stuck in it. So you might find a lot of fulfillment I will never have in my business because it's closed. I can find watching other businesses succeed because I've shared what I've learned with them. You can't put a dollar amount on that. You can't put a limit to that. That's a legacy.
Right. Wow. I love it, Shellie. That was deep. You dropped some nuggets. Let me just tell you, hey, I appreciate you. I always say that, but I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate the wisdom. And even the thought and this notion of taking that pain, those trials, and paying it forward. Don't let it get wasted. Don't miss out on that spared change moment, right? Even though it didn't work out for you, don't let it waste away on the sidelines. Use it and pay it forward. Shellie, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with the Spared Change community?
I don't know. Let me look at my notes real quick again. There was something here. I guess it could be as a business owner, I kind of said already about surrounding yourself with that community, but embrace the journey. embrace where you are. I'm saying it sounds like a little platitude, but we got to say it to ourselves. Because I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, every day, sometimes we wake up and have to say, we got to go, we got to get up, we got to go. There's often almost every day, daily, something holding that business owner back from moving forward, something that they can control or things that they can't control. And so just embrace that journey, and, accept the losses. If there's going to be wins, there's going to be losses too. But it's important to accept them as it is, and allow yourself to go through the grief process if that's what it takes. But then one of the things I made sure I continued to do while I was accepting that loss was measuring the impact of what I did accomplish. Don't forget all the dreaming that I did, all the organizing that I did to put it all together, even seeking out the vetted experts the best I could. I had to hire and fire in that 2-year period. So just all of those things that measure the impact. Excuse me, I opened during the recession. That means I gave jobs to people who otherwise wouldn't have had jobs. So there's just one way of measuring the impact of what you're going through, where you are, and remembering the benefits. Kind of what you asked me, what do we learn from it? What's coming out of it? There's still benefits out of things. So I guess, even when the outcome isn't clear, embrace the journey.
I love it. So you have heard it here, the Spirit Change community. Embrace your journey, accept your successes as much as you accept your losses, and measure the impact of your accomplishments. Again, Shellie Berry, thank you so much for being part of the Spirit Change podcast. I look forward to staying connected with you.
Thank you, Angela.
I appreciate you tuning in to this episode of Spirit Change. Be sure to stay connected for future episodes. You can follow me on social media or visit my website at angelargarman.com. Talk to you soon.